Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for joining me today on our webinar. My name is Daniel Marsh, and I'm a Business Development Manager here at Zeisel UK. So today's webinar, we're going to be doing a bit of a live demonstration of Nebula and sort of having a look at some of the features that are included with the platform that are tailored more for the MSP side of things. So being able to offer a managed service for your customers and making it easy for yourselves in terms of managing it, making any changes, any technical requirements. So that's what we're going to be doing. At the end of this webinar, there is going to be a questions and answers section. I've got my colleague Chris Buchanan on, who's going to be monitoring that for me. And we can have a bit of an interactive session at the end as well, and show you potentially some features that I haven't covered that you're keen on learning about. And there will also be a survey at the end. If you fill in this survey, then you will be eligible for a free training voucher for Nebula. This is a certified training, so you will get a certificate at the end of it. And then once you've done this, this is like the first part of your journey to become an MSP with ourselves and to obviously get the benefits that the MSP campaign that we're running will provide you. So let's sort of kick it off. So as I say, the Nebula platform that I'm going to be showing you today is a cloud management platform for traditional network equipment. So this will be your switches, your access points, and your security gateway. Today we will be only covering the switch and the access point, because that's where most of the level features for your MSP will be sat. And as I say, we'll sort of go through it. Our portfolio is forever increasing. So compared to a year and a half ago when I first started the company, we've added quite a lot of products to the portfolio now. So it is forever growing, as well as the feature set within inside it. So to start off, you'll open up a web browser and go to nebula.zeisel.com. You'll register yourself with an account with ourselves, and then once you've done this, you'll be presented with this sort of screen. So we're going to be concentrating on the Nebula Control Center to start off with, because this is where everything is done. The Nebula Orchestrator is something we'll cover probably further down the line if you're interested in the SD-WAN solutions. So if we click on the Go button to go into the Nebula Control Center, once you've started building all your organizations and all your sites and getting your customers into here, you'll be presented with a screen like this. So this will show you all customers that or all companies that either you manage and are an owner of, or potentially have taken over from somebody else and they've provided you administrative rights. The one that I'm going to be using today is Martech. So this is my home full Nebula setup apart from the gateway. So this is where you can easily see all of your customers that you've got and click on each one of them to go into that. We're going to start off at the MSP portal because it's multi-tiered management. So you've got sort of like the MSP portal where you can keep an eye on all your organizations, and shown on the screen in front of you now, you can see the license type you've got. So whether it's Nebula, which is the free version, you've got the Nebula Professional Pack, which can either be done annual or you can do it as perpetual lifetime license. So you don't have any expiry date. So if you license it for, say, 4 devices, 5 years down the line, you want to upgrade them 4 devices, you can do, and you won't have to license them. It will still be licensed. So again, it's really cost effective to go lifetime because you don't have to worry about any renewals. You can obviously put in a charge for the additional Pro Pack features with your customers. And then after so long, obviously, you would have covered the initial outlay of it. So ultimately, you'll be boosting your monthly profit as well with your customers, extending on the support services that you offer. So on this screen here, as I say, you can see all your license expiry dates, but more importantly, you can see how many sites you have under an organization, because an organization can have many sites. And underneath them sites, you'll have multiple devices. So you can see a full count of all of your devices you've got, whether they're online, they're in potentially an error state, meaning, say, the firmware needs upgrading, or they are potentially offline. So a quick, easy view to be able to have a look, go, right, I've got a customer, one of the devices are offline, let's go into it, let's start diagnosing it. Let's contact the customer and say, look, I think there's a problem on your network, just to let you know we are looking into it. So on the MSP portal as well, you have the control to be able to transfer your licenses from one organization to another organization. So this will be the Control Center Pro Pack, or potentially the security services which come with the gateway. And as I say, you can basically just move these to organizations that you are an owner of. If you've been given administrative rights, you can't do a license transfer. It has to be the owner. And it'll tell you how many points you've got and allow you to do that quite easily. So that's relatively straightforward. The MSP branding, now this is really nice because it gives you the ability to kind of white label the platform. So if you do provide your customers with a level of administrative access so they can change their SSIDs or make small changes, you could actually upload your own company logo. So you'll see here I've got a Zyzel logo in my pictures folder. If I upload that and apply it, I can do it to all of the organizations, save it, and you'll see at this top corner here, in the left top corner, it says Nebula Control Center. If you save that, it then changes and becomes whatever logo you've put in. So being able to white label it and ultimately brand it as your own. Also with this as well, in the platform, you have the ability to raise a support ticket directly from the platform. And what you can do is you can put obviously all your contact details on there. So you can put a telephone number in for your support services so that they can log a ticket with you. And ultimately, if they ever go to help and then to the support request form, it will show you this information. So I will show you that in a second. And ultimately, this here just allows you to, what do you apply it to? So do we want to apply it just to one, or do we want to apply it to everything? So we'll go on to the support side of things now. So if you go to help and support request, then on here you have the ability to invite the Zyzel support as an administrator to the site so they can have accessibility to it straight away to reduce the amount of time it takes to get access and to be able to diagnose it. But then you also have the ability to create a case as well. So you can have a look at any previous cases you've had which are closed, any which you've got that are open. So if we click on the new case button, it will basically pull all the information from your platform, and basically, are you having a problem with the platform as a whole, or are you having a problem with a specific device you've got? So these are my access points and my switches that I've got in my house. So I could literally go, right, I'm on that issue with this access point. What is the issue? What do I define the priority at, which we do have a definition here. So you can have a look at what the definitions of the priorities are. You can upload any potential information as well, speed tests, any troubleshooting that you've done, any troubleshooting your end users have done. So being able to provide as much information as possible, that is, if there is an issue, we can resolve it very quickly. And as you can see at the top here, that information that I put on, which you can put in with support numbers and stuff like that, is listed at the top as well. Okay. One important thing to remember as well is that if you are installing any Nebula devices into an environment, it is key that you know the firewall information. So this is all the stuff that is needed to be unblocked from a network to make it work. Any problems you might have on boarding equipment will generally be down to something here being blocked. So that's where you'll need to start your troubleshooting. So that really covers the MSP features at a top level. Now there are certain technical features and facilities within inside the platform which will make your lives much easier. So on the organization wide, and this goes for all of the tabs as well, you've always got the monitor section, so you can always do overviews, you can have a look at information and things like that. And then towards the bottom, you've got the configure side of things. So I'm going to pick out the most beneficial parts for an MSP. One key thing is making sure you know what kit you've got out in the field. So this can all be looked at through the inventory. Again, these are sites that you are an owner of. So you'll see here, I've got 4 devices here. It'll tell me the model, it'll tell me when it was registered, and it'll also tell me what site it's registered to, along with a serial number. From here, you can go directly to the device, but it allows you to keep that track of all your inventory, to which you can also export it as well to either a CSV or an XML file for your own internal records. From this section here, you can register a new device. So if you've got a new device that wants to go onto it, you can put in a MAC address and a serial number. It'll then pull the model and the license that it comes with automatically, and you can add multiple devices at the same time. For an MSP, sometimes you might have it where you've got like 100 devices to go into it. Now, sitting here and keying in 100 devices to import onto the platform can be very tedious, can be very uncomfortable to do, because you're going to be sat there putting in numbers that potentially you could also get wrong. So we do have an import facility as well. So you can download the template here, and then you can basically put all the information into the spreadsheet, and then upload it, and it'll allow you to upload 100 devices at any one time. So if you have any more than 100, you'll have to split it into multiple files, but ultimately it just allows you to put everything in here and then do the import facility. So again, making deployment much easier, because it's all about streamlining the process to make sure that everything can get installed easily, can be managed easily, and you can concentrate on growing your business in other areas than having to worry about the tedious day-to-day sort of tasks. So again, inventory is very, very important, and the ability to do that. So when you're part of a company and you've got a support team, you might have multiple people which actually are going to make any changes to the specific site or organization. So we do quite a good level login system. So you can create administrators. So if you go into the administrators here on the organization, you can create multiple administrators that you can either import. So if you've got a set standard, every time you create a site, you can import the same file for the same people every time you create it, and it just allows you to keep a bit of consistency. That way, if anyone makes any changes, so if I make any changes, it's going to come up on the logs. It's going to tell me what the old value is, what the new value is. So if there is any issues, you might have an apprentice, someone new who started, not quite familiar with the system. If they make any issues and cause a problem for your customer, you can have a look what was done, and you can quite easily just revert it back with the information that's provided. So again, for an MSP, getting the kit out there and installed easily, so streamlining the installation process is very key. So what you can actually do is you've got sort of two methods you can do. You've got configuration management, which allows you to create a configuration. So my home's fully set up, yet I might have another site which wants to be configured exactly the same. Whenever I make a change on my house, it wants to make a change on this other site. And it allows you to synchronize the settings, or even you can actually set up a template, which I'll show you in a few minutes. So you can synchronize all the settings from the home to the test home, and it will synchronize all this information. So it will synchronize all the device configuration, the captive portal reauthentication, SNMP details, and any SSIDs and authentication that you've set up. So it allows you, say for instance, if you get a customer which is like the Shell garage, for instance, you'll have Shell as being the organization, then you'll have each site as being a different geographical location. The chances are that each of them sites will want to be implemented exactly the same. So these sort of tools will allow you to roll out further installation sites. Once you've done the first one, everything else is pretty much simple from there, because you can just roll them out and clone them. And that's at the sort of the site-wide general setting. So that'll allow you to create a site and to synchronize the settings from another site. When it comes down to individual devices, so you've got switch settings, you might want to clone a certain switch to another switch. It will only allow you to select the same model. So you'll see here, I've got a GS1920 and I've got GS1350. Because them two switches aren't the same, it won't let me select it. But if I had two GS1920s, then I could replicate the settings from the main switch to the new switch, and again it will show you what's been cloned. So it'll be all your sort of spanning tree settings, port mirroring, and things like that, which will be cloned, and any IGMP settings as well. Obviously, making sure that disaster recovery in the worst case scenario, if you have any issues, we need to be able to recover it. So if you do a backup, it's not a backup where you can extract it and put it onto a file server for future for saving. It is a case of, it's like a snapshot. It'll just take a snapshot, store it on here, and it'll allow you to restore any backups that you've got saved. And the same with the switches as well. So you can back up the switches configuration to Nebula, and then if there's any changes made, say the customer wants some change and all of a sudden everything goes Pete Tong and it doesn't work anymore, then you can just restore it, and then you can obviously start going through the implementation again. So it's being able to provide that 99% uptime as well. So the configuration templates, now these are one of my favorite features within Nebula. So what this allows you to do is create a template. I always find it easier to build the site first and then import the settings. So my site home, I could create this and call this template test. And basically what it'll do is it'll allow everything I change on home will be changed on any other sites. So let me go back to the analogy that I was using with Shell Garage. If on a monthly basis the Shell garage wants their SSIDs changing for security purposes, if you bind every site you create to the first one you've done, all you would need to do is change the first one, and it will change everyone which has been bound to it. So I mean, I can click here. I've got a test home. If I create that and save that, anything I change on this site here, yeah, will change on the test home as well. So it just means that you can change one SSID, it'll change it across the board. You change a switch, it'll change it across the board. Anything you change will be replicated to the sites it's bound to. So again, a very good tool for simplifying any changes and making sure that everything's done consistently across every site that you're doing. So streamlining that installation process and that management. So I am going to unbind this though, because if I don't unbind it, then it will restrict what settings I can change on that particular one. So from an organization point of view, just to give you a quick summary, the most important things that I would deem for MSPs: inventory, being allowed to keep a check of every device that you've got inside Nebula. Administrators, being able to provide administrative access to your internal team, as well as potential IT managers or IT designated people inside your customer. Configuration management, so being able to manage the configuration, create backups, clone settings and synchronize settings from one site to another. And then you've got the configuration template, which allows you to create one site, but bind that to multiple sites underneath it, so that you can make one setting change on your master site, let's call it, and then it will update everything which has been bound to it. Okay. So moving on the site-wide, one of the two big features on the site side of things is the topology. So with a Pro Pack feature, you get what's called a network topology. And as you install Nebula devices, because they're all aware of each other, they build a topology. So you can see that I have an access point here, which goes into my main switch, but I also have another switch which plugs into my main switch. And it just allows you to see the flow of the actual network itself. These little green LEDs on here signify the status, so whether it's an online, an alert, or it's offline. So if, for instance, I get a call, my access point's gone, my customer's access point's gone offline, I'll lock on here and it'll be red. I can then click onto that, and from here I can either go to the access point by clicking on the name, or I can have a look at the remote port. So this is plugged into port 4 on my main switch. So this would actually allow me to go back to my switch, go into my switch, and then start a diagnostic procedure. So the first thing I'd obviously want to look at doing is checking the port status. So you can check whether or not something's connected, whether or not it's running at full modulation, or whether or not it's offline completely. And you can drill down from here and go into the individual ports. You can change any of the settings for the actual switch. You can add some descriptions. And one of my real nice features is you can actually add a photo and a floor map. So you can pinpoint specifically on a floor map that you've been given from the customer where this switch is located within inside the property, as well as uploading a physical picture of it. It's really good for installing access points, because if you're installing them inside a ceiling, then you can just take a picture of the ceiling tile moved across and go, right, it's pinpointed here with a little arrow, upload it. And if you've got somebody on site, even the customer, you can direct them exactly where the access point is and even tell them what to look for. So as I say, from this point here, you can actually go to configure ports and go into the physical switch and start doing the diagnostic procedures. So again, being able, the flow that you've got, starting from the network topology, then you have a look at the overview of the switch or the access point, and you can identify the issue from there. So then you drill down into it further and go into specific ports. So the troubleshooting set that we put in here is absolutely fantastic, and definitely something that I use and guide people on a daily basis to make sure they're getting the best out of the platform. So that's the topology. Again, as I say, you can access all the switches, the access point from that section. The next couple of bits I want to talk about here are the alert settings. So if something goes offline, you want to be notified about it. You don't want your customer to log a call with you. You want to show that you are actively monitoring their network. So there's two methods in which you can receive these. You can receive them either via email, or you can receive them via an in-app push notification. So this is when you're using a Nebula app on your Android or your Apple phone. It'll provide you a little notification, or you can get an email if the access point goes off in 5 minutes to 60 minutes, if the switch goes offline, if there's any issues with the gateway, and more importantly, if any configuration changes are made. So you could tick this, and if anyone goes in and makes any changes, you will instantly get an email saying, right, this setting's been changed by this user. This was the old value. This is the new value. So if there's any issues, you can look at that email and be like, right, that's what was changed. So let's just change it back. And then that's it, everything's up and running. And then you can launch your investigation as to why the setting was changed or why it caused an issue. The alerts can be either sent to all administrators that you've created for this particular site, or you can also add a custom email address as well. The custom email address I have seen used for things like Zendesk, so a ticketing system where you send in an email to a certain email box and it'll automatically create a ticket based on the content of it. So this is where I've seen this used, and then every time we send you an alert, it automatically creates it within your ticketing system, and then it's logged, and you can then start proactively looking at it potentially before the customers even notice there is an issue. The next thing is obviously firmware. Making sure your device's firmware is up to date is very crucial, because we release firmwares for new feature sets, but more importantly for security patches. If any device, and this goes across all vendors, if any security vulnerability has been exposed, then we need to write some software to close it down and to make it secure again. So this is where you would do it. You can select all the devices that you want. You can schedule an upgrade if you've got the Pro Pack features, so you can do this every week, every month, on a particular date at a particular time, and you can also specify what devices you actually want to upgrade. Or if you want to do a manual, then you also have the ability to do them as well. So on here, because this one I have an upgrade available, so I could literally just go upgrade now and it will upgrade my access point. So that probably covers it for the feature set on the site-wide. The cloud authentication, I am going to touch on this because this is very, very handy. So in hospitality, retail, or anything like that, you might have users that you want to be able to track what they're doing on the internet, but provide them free internet access. So you've got the ability to do what's called a dynamic personal pre-share key. And you'll see I've got quite a few entries here, but ultimately all I did was go add, and I can either create a single one or a batch of 20, and it will create a user with different passwords. And then I can actually select all these, print them out and cut them out and provide them to customers as and when they either want the internet or if they want to pay for it. So this is an easy way to be able to provide wireless access to guests without having to create a single password that everybody can use. And it means that you don't have to sort of change it on a monthly basis either, because you can set an expiry date here. One other thing I am going to touch on this bit here is what's called dynamic VLANing. Now, dynamic VLAN is a very, very good feature. Now, it basically means that if you're in, say, like a multi-shared building, so you've got a building that 10 businesses are in, each one of them businesses will want their own network. They'll want their own VLAN for security purposes, because they don't want anybody else looking at their traffic. So what you can do is you could create here 10 office users, yeah, and stipulate a different VLAN. And as soon as they're prompted by Windows or Mac to connect onto the Wi-Fi, rather than just giving you the option for a password like it does by default, it'll ask you for a username and a password. Once you put in them details, it'll authenticate you onto the wireless, it'll drop you into the correct VLAN, therefore it's completely separate and it's based on username and password. That means you can have one SSID broadcasted throughout the entire building, and it doesn't matter where that one business is located. They can go anywhere, log on with their details, and it is basically an extension of their network. So they could sit in a communal conference area, for instance, sit there, log on with their username and password, and they will be able to access all their resources on their local network without having to make any changes in any way, shape, or form. It's all done in the background, and it is a very, very good feature. One reason why it is a good feature is you only need one SSID broadcasted. The more SSIDs you broadcast, the more interference, the more radio noise that you create, can cause wireless congestion and issues for your customers. So one SSID broadcasted throughout. It is a very good feature and works very, very well. So I really do consider or sort of recommend looking into that feature. So on the switches, so I'm not going to go too far into technical details into what you can do with each individual switch port, but I am going to show you overall what some of the what the switches can do. So you've got quality of service. So the ability to be able to put a priority on traffic, mainly used for VoIP. So you'd put all your VoIP traffic or something at a higher priority than your data, meaning if you're running out of network capacity or broadband, then you don't lose call quality. So that can be done in quality of service, but it is better to be used in the voice VLAN section. And the reason for this is that you actually have the ability to put in a MAC address of a device. So you could put in a MAC address of a SNOM phone, you could put a MAC address of a Cisco phone, a Polycom phone, a Yealink phone. And as long as it meets the criteria, it will get dropped into the VLAN based on its MAC address. And then you can provide its own priority. So if you provide a phone system, you come in, you plug in a Polycom phone, straight away the system goes, right, I've got a phone just plugged in. It's matching my voice VLAN and it's telling me that's a Yealink manufacturer. I'm going to put you in VLAN 99 because that's what I've stipulated. And I'm going to provide you a priority of 4 because that's what I've also been stipulated. So this allows you just to basically allow your any phones that are plugged into the network to automatically get a higher priority because we know it's a VoIP device. As I say, it's really, really handy the way it works. It supports being able to put in the MAC address by default, but then we have also started supporting the LLDP MED as well. So you can specify this information on the phone, and as it finds it, it'll just put it straight in. So it's not specific to an actual vendor, it's specific to this information. So that's the voice VLAN, very good feature. If you do have any questions about that, then feel free to voice them towards the end. Vendor-based VLAN. So this is very similar to how voice VLAN works. You have the ability to put in a MAC address of a device, so a Dell laptop, a HP laptop, or in a school, iPads, because they might have a different content filtering policy you want to apply. But this will allow you to create multiple ones. So you can say, right, all HPL laptops have a certain priority, will go into a certain VLAN, all printers go into a certain VLAN, etc. So it allows you that little bit of flexibility to have more devices on there. So they are they're two very, very good features for being able to manage your network, so they don't have to keep making changes to the switches for your VoIP phones, etc. And then from an access point of view, I mean, I've obviously covered the dynamic VLANing and just to sort of show you how to implement that. If you go to Authentication on the actual platform, you have the ability to select from here dynamic personal pre-shared key. So that's the one where it creates the bulk of customers by default. Or you can use WPA Enterprise and use the Nebula Cloud Authentication, which is this section here, where I showed you can create the users with a VLAN tag in. Or if you have your own internal radius server, you can use your own radius server. And once you select it, this is where you put all your information in for it to authenticate against it. Dead easy to set up. If you've got any questions, then myself or Nigel, who's a sales engineer for the UK, will be able to help you. And obviously the support team as well are fully trained and will be able to assist you with that as well. The main thing in the wireless side of things for MSPs is making sure that the wireless is functioning correctly, there isn't any issues, and if there is some issues, what do we do to fix it? So wireless health, this is a Pro Pack feature. So anything with a little diamond next to it. So if you look here, a little diamond next to it, that indicates that that feature requires a Pro Pack feature. So you can see here, I've got one access point that's online, and it'll show you my access point and how it's been performing. So at this point here, it could have been having some interference with potentially a neighbor, and then using the dynamic channel selection option, it's then changed its channel and brought it back down. So it's called machine learning. So it actually pays attention to its environment that it's around using the radio in the access point, and it makes changes to the channel width and things like that to make sure we can combat any potential issues. That's the access point that it's monitoring at that section, but at the bottom it's actually monitoring your client. So currently I've got 5 good connections and I've got 1 fair. So you'll see all of these have a decent connection. So whether it be my PS4, my phone, my Fire TV, they're all in the house. They all get a real decent signal. My Amazon Alexa is actually outside in my bar, so it's obviously a very weak connection because it's right at the bottom of the garden. So therefore it is showing issues. But I would like to say that it does actually work absolutely flawlessly when you're actually listening to it. It's just the statistics it's showing is showing that it's having a problem because it's highlighting it for me. So potentially I know it's a poor signal, so I know what I need to do to fix it. So again, this wireless health, it's forever learning and being able to reduce the change the channel width and change the channel based on what its surroundings are. So it'll actually go, right, next door's channel's on 1, let's change this to 3, etc. So it's forever learning. So really, that really concludes all the features that I would deem the most acceptable ones for the MSP. So if you've got any questions, now would be the right time to sort of voice them. So I can see that I've got a question through saying, does the feature only work with Nebula Pro Pack? So if you can just expand on what feature that would be. As I say, if there's ever a diamond at the side of it, it does indicate that it is a pro feature. So, but I can always pick that up with you offline and find out exactly what feature are you specifically on about.
Danny, I believe it was the dynamic
I've only got the one question. So the dynamic VLAN, yes, that is a Pro Pack feature. So you will require the either the annual subscription or the lifetime license. And I would always consider going lifetime because, like certain vendors, if you miss your renewal date, the devices actually stop working and just become an expensive paperweight unless you pay an arm and a leg to renew it. In situations like that, we've actually been able to swap out an entire Wi-Fi system, provide them a full perpetual lifetime license for a fraction of the cost for their renewal. And as I say, because it's lifetime, it never has an expiry date. So if you license 10 devices and then 5 years down the line, you want to go to the next generation of Wi-Fi, 10 gig backbone, and you replace it with 10 devices, they are still licensed. You don't need to do anything with them. It's only if you increase the amount of devices that you've got that you need to consider purchasing further licenses. So I hope that's clear and obviously answered your question on that one. So we just got add another one through. So with the auto channel change, is there a way to fix the channel width and hold it to a specific channels to choose from? No, you can't specify any specific one. So it's going to pay attention to the regulations of the channels that we can use, but it will basically pick one based on the information it generates from its environment. You can switch it off. So if you don't want the dynamic channel selection and you just want it for the monitoring purposes, then you can switch it off so it doesn't make any changes, because obviously when it changes any channel, it will potentially cause a slight drop. And in real high usage networks where potentially a drop could cause data corruption or issues, such as warehousing, for instance, you might want to turn it off and just make sure that you manage the frequencies yourself manually inside the environment. So Steve's also come back saying, guest access, is there a social media login option? Is there a way of charging guests for access? So there is the ability for walled garden, so you can hook into a walled garden for your payment side of things. And we do have the ability in the access point and authentication to do sign-in methods using Facebook Wi-Fi, which is a pro feature, Facebook, and then you've got the normal two, which is our Nebula authentication and Radius as well. So we've got them means. And again, being able to put your walled garden range in and point them to a payment terms is something you can use a third party for. So we can hook into that, but we don't provide it in the platform directly. Alex has come with, what is the post-sale window of opportunity to add a lifetime license? Now, by default, I think you get a 30-day trial period with the platform. So when you start adding devices, if they don't come inclusive with any licensing, you'll get 30 days trial to be able to use them. And if you apply the license within that trial period, then that's fine. You can go lifetime. So you could go, right, so your customers go, right, you've got 20 days to trial all these features. If you want them, we need to renew it within the next sort of 10 days and apply that license within the 30-day trial period, and then it'll allow you to go perpetual. So you get that little grace period in which you don't have to fully license it, where you can make use of the benefits and see if it's actually going to benefit your customer. So that seems to be all. So that seems to have sorted Alex's question out. Steve, if you're happy with your questions, then obviously we can move on from that. But I mean, overall, that is a platform deeming the most the best features for the MSP side of things and making sure you get the most out of it. Being able to deploy sites much easier is one of the core messages, and also being able to troubleshoot it without having to go on site, get customers to make so many changes and things like that. So you got everything at your fingertips, one pane of glass, all your customers, all the supporting features you need, as well as the fact that we're constantly evolving it as well. So if there are some features that when you start using it, you realize, oh, hang on a second, this feature would really be good, it might be worth just raising a ticket with the Nebula team and say, look, I think this feature would be handy. They'll then stick it on like a feature request thing, and if it deems like there's much demand for it and it's something that's required, then it's something that they might implement into it. It is also key to know we are looking at API integration as well, so being able to sort of integrate with third-party tools, which you might already have developed as well internally. So I can see a few more questions have come through, so let me just have a look. So Paul, when looking at the renewal for the NSG, the calculator suggests 550 points, the SP is 550. Is for the NCC. Why the difference? So the NCC is for the Nebula Control Center. So all the ProPack features that I've discussed with you today are all part of the NCC. The NSS is for the security features. So that's like for antivirus and for IDP and things like that. There is a different pricing model for them, and there is no perpetual for that either. And the reason being for that is that security is forever increasing and developing in them sort of areas. So because of that, we can't do a perpetual on the security. It's just a case of doing sort of annual one with that. And as I say, it's a different pricing model, hence the reason why the points are slightly different on that as well. But if you want, Paul, you can always give me a shout. I think you've got my details, and we can go through it offline if you like. So Steve's come back saying, for alerts, as they are per site, can you have an alert set for a device going down and then a separate alert to say us as the owner, should the user have access to make a config change? So essentially alerts to varying recipients depending on the trigger event. So it is quite flat in terms of the alerting settings. So it is per site. If we go to the alerting settings, so you can basically just stipulate, if this happens, I want all administrators to be told, or I want it to go to a custom email address. So what you could do is on each and every different site, you could have a different custom email address to go to different places, but you can't really say, right, I only want this alert to go to this email address. It doesn't work like that. It's just an overall. It might be something that gets enhanced in the future. I mean, you could always raise it with Nebula to see what the Nebula team and see if they've got any developments in that areas and what they've got in the roadmap for the alerts. So Paul's sort of expanding on the alerts question. So for AP's reporting 100 meg link, can we set the alert to ignore? No, you can't really set the alert to be ignored. It's either on or off. At the moment, it doesn't actually provide you an alert if the cable modulation changes. But again, I do think that's probably a feature request more than anything. But I can see that it is a valid request and potentially has already been thought out by the Nebula team. But feel free to send it across to the guys. As I say, the alerts is something that I think that they're going to concentrate on developing quite a lot, because making sure that our MSPs and our resellers provided as much notice as possible so that they can proactively deal with it before the customer starts reporting it. Because again, you're going to be offering a managed service either on a subscription-based service or a monthly charge where you're going to monitor their entire network, and you want to be shown to be doing that and ultimately earning the money that you're being paid for. So yes, I think the alert settings is something that they're going to heavily sort of evolve over time. I think that might be all of them that I've answered. So as I say, I'll keep it open for another couple more minutes. So if you've got any more questions, then fire them across. I am also available for any conversations offline as well, which might be specific to yourself as a customer if you don't want to obviously raise them in a group. I'll just give you a couple more minutes. Yes, email alerts can be sent to multiple email addresses. So if you've got multiple administrators set for that site and you turn on all site administrators, then all of them administrators will be told. And trust me, I get all the Zyzel ones as well. So and that's hundreds of them every month. And then you can also set custom email addresses, which you can actually specify multiple email addresses as well. So you can specify custom multiple email addresses as well. So can dynamic MAC stuff, can you specify masks like CNA on the VMG routers? So you can specify a specific mask. So if you go back into the switch settings, so switch and switch settings, at this point here, you could say, right, I want I don't know, the first sort of 6 octets to be matched, or I might want all 4, or I might want the full MAC address to be matched, in which case it basically pays attention to it. And if you put one individual MAC on it and you go, right, this device is crucial that it must always have a top priority, put in the full MAC address of that device, and that will get dropped in the correct VLAN with the correct priority based on what you've said. So I mean that's obviously on the voice VLAN, and the same works as well on the vendor-based VLAN as well. So if you go to here and then specify your full vendor, what VLAN it wants to go in, etc., then that allows you to do that. So I hope that answered your question as well, Steve. All right, so the questions seem to have slowed down a little bit. Again, obviously, this is going to be sent out in a recorder, so if you have missed anything, then it will get sent out to you. If for whatever reason you think to yourself, oh, I should have asked that question when I was on there, my email address is daniel.marsh@zyzel.co.uk. And you can also reach me on LinkedIn as well. So I know a couple of customers quite often when I do a webinar, they add me on LinkedIn. And if you've got any questions, just send them over to me. I get notifications to my phone, and if I'm in a position to be able to respond to you straight away, I certainly will try. So I've got a quick license question from Paul. So the NSS Analysis Pro Pack or Security Pack. So the NSS Analysis is a security pack feature because it's for the NSS, so they're for the security, the Nebula security sort of feature set. So they'll show you content filtering, it'll show you IDP, any viruses you've got and anything like that, and show you the security on that. Right. So yeah, just trying to think if there's anything I've missed off that I deem crucial. Obviously, you've got events logs and things like that, so you can keep an eye on what's happened on your network, who's roamed from one access point to another. You can have a look at what clients are connected to a particular switch. It'll also show you their IP address and things like that, and on your access point, so you can see all my devices, and you'll see my Amazon Alexa. Even at the back of the garden is minus 77 decibel, which I think is pretty good. And again, with a switch, you can go to clients as well. You can see everyone who's sort of plugged into the switches, what port they're on, what VLAN they're connected to, and any LLDP information that's been pulled across as well. I do apologise, my connection is a little bit slow, unfortunately. I am on Sky. I don't get the 200 meg version I would like. All right, so I hope that's answered your question as well, Paul. But as you can see multiple devices, which ones are online, when they was last seen, MAC address, any LLDP information, and IP addresses if it pulls it across. So my Nebula access point, because it's fully LLDP supported, pulls back all the information, whereas my CCTV, my phone, Alexa, and things like that don't. And then you'll see the GS1350 as well there. Right, so I think I'll sort of call that a wrap. Again, feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. And if you've got any questions, I'm always available via phone or via email. And more importantly, don't forget to fill out the survey using the Academy Campus, which I will show you quickly, actually. So we've recently launched a new Academy Campus online for the team. This is where you can do your online certification training. So once you've obviously filled in the survey, in the next few days, you'll get a voucher through through an email, and then you can go. You can log in with your information, or create a login, and then you have the ability to go to certifications, or if you scroll down, they're listed here. So you can go on Nebula Level 1. You'll see the price is at €300, but you're going to be getting a free charge voucher. Click on it as though you're going to actually buy it, so you want to enroll on the course. However, when it comes to the point where you actually go to checkout, you can go, I have a coupon. Yes, you do. Put in that information in there, redeem it, and then it'll bring the total to zero. Once you've done that, I can't show you in a live environment, unfortunately, but you'll have all of the modules, so all of the content to show you how what you need to know to pass the exam. You can recap on them, you can pause them, you can do them in your own leisure. Once you've done all the modules, the final exam will be opened up. And I even think there's a little quiz at the end of each module, just a bit of a recap as well. If you're getting stuck or you've got any issues or anything like that, give the sales team at the UK office a call, and we'll sort of help you out best we can. So, as I say, thank you everyone for joining me. I hope you've enjoyed it. And as I say, make sure you go for the exam, because it is very important that you get certified, especially if you want to join us on the MSP journey and make use of the benefits that we've got available as well, which will sort of be covered again in later webinars as well. So thank you ever so much for joining me today, and you have a good rest of your day, and take care. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.